Ending ceremony tomorrow for Prabhupada. We're going to be offering 75 flower garlands to Srila Prabhupada, beautifully smelling flower garlands, not just carnations, high quality flowers, beautiful flowers. We have a ghee lamp offering tomorrow. We have a procession outside in the outside Vyasa. We also have a procession with Prabhupada Murti around New Dwarka. So tomorrow night will be very special. So make sure you fully participate in that. There'll be a lot of nice devotees coming this weekend, so feel free to associate with everybody. We have beautiful meals that we're preparing for everyone, so you have an opportunity to socialize, to talk, to get a lot of good association, basically. So we're looking forward to everyone's participation in this event. Again, if you do have a few moments, please wander into the kitchen to help with cutting up some vegetables, and also make sure you're on our bus. We have some of our esteemed speakers coming in. I wouldn't mind introducing them to you so you know who they are. Right now we're going to have a reading from Lilamrita. Does anybody have a question that we can answer just to get that out of the way, and some of the practicalities or anything like that? Would you like to know anything at all? Any questions? Okay, good. Just so you know some of the, yes, Guru Krishna. Yes. No, the bus is not sold out. We have room for 85, and I think we have about 55 right now. So you should be fine. So some of the speakers that have flown in, just to introduce you, on the right in the green sari is the temple president from Hawaii. Her name is Kusha. Kusha, raise your hand. Hari Hari Bo! Jai. Next to her is Ananga Manjari, who flew in from Alachua. Haribo! These are very early disciples, first disciples of Srila Prabhupada, wonderful disciples, so much history. And in the pink sari, she flew in, this is Malati Prabhu, she flew in from New Vrindavan. Haribo! Jayashri, where did she come from? She's local? She's local. Jai Shri Prabhu Ki Haribo! And then we have, at the head, we have one of the oldest disciples in our movement, one of the first disciples, I should say. Not necessarily she's so old, but one of our first disciples, actually, very, very wonderful disciple, who's living here in New Dwarka, and her name is Balai. Balai Ki Prabhu Ki Jai Haribo! So, I'm going to now pass over the baton to our esteemed MC, Siddhanta Prabhu, who is arranging all this, and I'm going to let him take over from here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mahashakti. Mahashakti Ki Jai. Boy, the amount of work that he's done is incredible. I don't know how he did it. Hopefully he'll do it next year and won't be frustrated by all the work that he had to do this year. Dhananjaya Pandit, can you take the level on the audience mic down? It's a little reverb. Yeah. So before we do the readings from the Lilamrita, this year it's going to be, yeah, that's a little too much, halfway. Test 1, 2, yeah, that's good. Tapas, are you ready, or should I start the video from the laptop itself?
Yeah.
From the laptop itself? Okay. So this is a festival honoring Srila Prabhupada, as Mahashakti said, and the focus is on Prabhupada's daughters. We're in relationship to the amount of compassion that Prabhupada showed them. To begin with, we're going to see a video from a devotee, Hridananda Goswami, that had a personal darshan with Srila Prabhupada along with Karandar Prabhu. And it sets the stage for their reading from the Lilamrita, which is the beginning chapters of the Lilamrita. And when you hear his story, then it'll make sense why we're reading this particular portion of the Lilamrita. So without further ado,
once over 70. I was in the house, so maybe 73, 74. And it was a beautiful afternoon, the sun was setting, and golden rays were shining in Prabhupada. It was very sublime, nice breeze was blowing. It was a very beautiful atmosphere. And Prabhupada took us back to old India, the turn of the century. And when he was a child, he was a young householder, and he took us there actually, and he began to talk about how people used to work, and relationships between householders and their servants, and how people used to cook and things. So there we were back in India, probably. And then he took us back farther to his early childhood, when he was playing with, not playing, but having the Rath Yatra, worshiping Radha Govinda. And then only Karandar and I were in the room. Prabhupada looked at us very strongly and said, whatever I'm doing now, I was doing then. Do you understand? And of course we were at that point kind of speechless. And then Prabhupada said, never was there a time when I did not know Krishna. Do you understand? And he said it in such a way that it was clearly the case. So that was a very powerful experience.
So we're here with Rukmini Devi.
so that's the setting up now the Lilamrita from the earliest days, so we can get some practical and specific examples of how Prabhupada was Krishna conscious from the beginning. So before we begin, I just want each of the ladies to say their name, to repeat it again, where you were initiated and in what year.
New York,
Kalai Dasi.
Bly Dasi, New York, 1967.
Malati Devi Dasi, San Francisco, January 1967.
Jayashree Dasi, Hawaii, 1969.
Ananga Manjari, Boston, 1970.
Kusha Devi Dasi, Honolulu, Hawaii, 1970. Initiation.
Pavani Devi Dasi, San Francisco, 1975.
Dhananjay Pandit, are you back there? I think they might need a little boost on the level. MC, that's the audience. They're going to use the audience mic. Test, 1, 2, 1, 2.
So this is from Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So just, let's give them a big round of applause for their seva.
Jai Srila Prabhupada. It was Janmashtami, the annual celebration of the advent of Lord Krishna, some 5,000 years before. Residents of Calcutta, mostly Bengalis and other Indians, but also many Muslims and even some British, were observing the festive day, moving here and there through the city's streets to visit the temples of Lord Krishna. Devout Vaishnavas fasting until midnight, chanted Hare Krishna, and heard about the birth and activities of Lord Krishna from Srimad Bhagavatam. They continued fasting, chanting, and worshiping throughout the night. The next day, September 1, 1896, in a little house in the Toligunj suburb of Calcutta, a male child was born. Since he was born on Nandotsava, the day Krishna's father, Nanda Maharaj, had observed a festival in honor of Krishna's birth, the boy's uncle called him Nandulal. But his father, Gaur Mohan Dey, and his mother, Rajani, named him Abhay Charan, one who was fearless, having taken shelter at Lord Krishna's lotus feet. In accordance with Bengali tradition, the mother had gone to the home of her parents for the delivery, and so it was that on the bank of the Ariganga, a few miles from his father's home, in a small 2-room mud-walled hut with a tiled roof, underneath a jackfruit tree, Abhay Charan was born. A few days later, Abhay returned with his parents to their home at 151 Harrison Road. An astrologer did a horoscope for the child, and the family was made jubilant by the auspicious reading. The astrologer made a specific prediction. When this child reached the age of 70, he would cross the ocean, become a great exponent of religion, and open 108 temples. Abhay's home at 151 Harrison Road was in the Indian section of North Calcutta. Abhay's father, Gaur Mohan Dey, was a cloth merchant of moderate income and belonged to the aristocratic Suvarna Varnik merchant community. He was related, however, to the wealthy Mullik family, which for thousands of years had traded in gold and salt with the British. Originally, the Mulliks had been members of the Dey family, a Gotra lineage that traces back to the ancient sage Gautama. But during the Mughal period of the pre-British India, a Muslim ruler had conferred the title Mullik, Lord, on a wealthy, influential branch of the Deys. Then, several generations later, a daughter of the Deys had married into the Mullik family, and the two families had remained close ever since. When Abhay was 1.5 years old, he fell ill with typhoid. The family physician, Dr. Bose, prescribed chicken broth. No, Gaur Mohan protested, I cannot allow it. Yes, otherwise he will die. But we are not meat eaters, Gaur Mohan pleaded. We cannot prepare chicken in our kitchen. Don't mind, Dr. Bose said. I shall prepare it at my house and bring it in a jar, and you simply, Gaur Mohan assented, if it is necessary for my son to live. So the doctor came with his chicken broth and offered it to Abhay, who immediately began to vomit. All right, the doctor admitted, never mind, this is no good. Gaur Mohan then threw the chicken broth away, and Abhay gradually recovered from the typhoid without having to eat meat.
On the roof of Abhay's maternal grandmother's house, there was a little garden with flowers, greenery, and trees. Along with the other grandchildren, 2-year-old Abhay took pleasure in watering the plants with a sprinkling can. But his particular tendency was to sit alone amongst the plants. He would find a nice bush and make a sitting place. One day, when Abhay was 3, he narrowly escaped a fatal burning. He was playing with matches in front of his house when he caught his cloth on fire. Suddenly, a man appeared and put the fire out. Abhay was saved, although he retained a small scar on his leg. In 1900, when Abhay was 4, a vehement plague hit Calcutta. Dozens of people died every day, and thousands evacuated the city. When there seemed no way to check the plague, an old Babaji organized Hare Krishna Sankirtan all over Calcutta. Regardless of religion, Hindu, Muslim, Christian, and Parsi all joined, and a large party of chanters traveled from street to street, door to door, chanting the names Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The group arrived at Gaur Mohan's house at 151 Harrison Road, and Gaur Mohan eagerly received them. Although Abai was a little child, his head reaching only up to the knees of the chanters, he also joined in the dancing. Shortly after this, the plague subsided. Gaur Mohan was a pure Vaishnava, and he raised his son to be Krishna conscious. Since his own parents had also been Vaishnavas, Gaur Mohan had never touched meat, fish, eggs, tea, or coffee. His complexion was fair and his disposition reserved. At night, he would lock up his cloth shop, set a bowl of rice in the middle of the floor to satisfy the rats so that they would not chew the cloth in their hunger, and return home.
There he would read from Chaitanya Charitamrita Srimad Bhagavatam, the main scriptures of the Bengali Vaishnavas, chant on his beads, and worship the deity of Lord Krishna. He was gentle and affectionate and would never punish Abai. Even when obliged to correct him, Gaur Mohan would say, and he would first apologize, "You are my son, so now I must correct you. This is my duty." Even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's father would chastise him, so don't mind. Srila Prabhupada, my father's income was no more than 250 rupees, but there was no question of need. In the mango season, when we were children, we would run through the house playing, and we would grab mangoes as we were running through. And all through the day, we would eat mangoes. We wouldn't have to think, can I have a mango? My father would always provide food. Mangoes were 1 rupee a dozen. Life was simple, but there was always plenty. We were middle class, but receiving 4 to 5 guests daily. My father gave 4 daughters in marriage, and there was no difficulty for him. Maybe it was not a very luxurious life, but there was no scarcity of food or shelter or cloth. Daily he purchased 2.5 kilos of milk. He did not like to purchase retail, but would purchase a year's supply of coal by the cartload. We were happy, not that because we did not purchase a motor car we were unhappy. My father used to say, God has 10 hands. If he wants to take away from you with your 2 hands, how can you protect? And when he wants to give to you with 10 hands, then with your 2 hands, how much can you take?
Thank you. My father would rise a little late, around 7 or 8. Then, after taking bath, he would go purchasing. Then, from 10 o'clock to 1 in the afternoon, he was engaged in puja. Then he would take his lunch and go to business. And in the business shop, he would take a little rest for 1 hour. He would come home from business at 10 o'clock at night, and then again he would do puja. Actually, his real business was puja. For livelihood, he did some business, but puja was his main business. We would be sleeping, and father would be doing Aarti. Ding, ding, ding. We would hear the bell and wake up and see him bowing down before Lord Krishna. Gaur Mohan wanted Vaishnav goals for his son. He wanted Abai to become a servant of Radharani, to become a preacher of the Bhagavatam, and to learn the devotional art of playing mridanga. He regularly received sadhus in his home, and he would always ask them, "Please bless my son so that Srimati Radharani may be pleased with him and grant him her blessings." Enjoying each other's company, father and son used to walk as far as 10 miles, saving the 5 paisa tram fare. On the beach, they used to see a yogi who for years had sat in one spot without moving. One day, the yogi's son was sitting there, and people had gathered around. The son was taking over his father's sitting place. Gaur Mohan gave the yogis a donation and asked their blessings for his son. When Abai's mother said she wanted him to become a British lawyer when he grew up, which meant he would have to go to London to study, one of the Mulak uncles thought it was a good idea. But Gaur Mohan would not hear of it. If Abai went to England, he would be influenced by European dress and manners. He will learn drinking and woman hunting. Gaur Mohan objected. I do not want his money. From the beginning of Abai's life, Gaur Mohan had introduced his plan. He had hired a professional mridanga player to teach Abai the standard rhythms for accompanying kirtan. Rajani had been skeptical. What is the purpose of teaching such a young child to play the mridanga? It is not important. But Gaur Mohan had his dream of a son who would grow up singing bhajans, playing mridanga, and speaking on Srimad Bhagavatam. When Abai sat to play the mridanga, even with his left and right arms extended as far as he could, his small hands would barely reach the drumheads at the opposite ends of the drum. With his right wrist, he would flick his hand just as the teacher instructed, and his fingers would make a high-pitched sound, teeny, 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 ta. And then he would strike the left drumhead with his open left hand, boom, boom. With practice and age, he was gradually learning the basic rhythms, and Gaur Mohan looked on with pleasure. Abai was the acknowledged pet child of both his parents. In addition to his childhood names Moti, Nandulal, Nandu, and Kocha, his grandmother called him Kachori Muki because of his fondness for kachoris, spicy vegetable-stuffed fried pastries, popular in Bengal. Both his grandmother and mother would give him kachoris, which he kept in many pockets of his little vest. He liked to watch the vendors cooking on the busy roadside and accept kachoris from them and from the neighbors until all the inside and outside pockets of his vest were filled. Sometimes when Abai demanded that his mother make him kachoris, she would refuse. Once, she even sent him to bed when Gaur Mohan came home and asked, "Where is Abai?" Rajani explained how he had been too demanding and she had sent him to bed without kachoris. No, we should make them for him, his father replied. And he woke Abai and personally cooked kachoris and puris for him. Gaur Mohan was always lenient with Abai and careful to see that his son got whatever he wanted. When Gaur Mohan returned home at night, it was his practice to take a little puffed rice, and Abai would also sometimes sit with his father eating puffed rice. Okay, I'll just get it started. Thanks.
Once at the cost of 6 rupees, Gaur Mohan bought Abai a pair of shoes imported from England, and each year, through a friend who traveled back and forth from Kashmir, Gaur Mohan would present his son a cashmere shawl with a fancy hand-sewn border. One day in the market, Abai saw a toy gun he wanted. His father said no, and Abai started to cry. All right, Gaur Mohan said, and he bought the gun. And Abai wanted another gun. You already have one, his father said. Why do you want another one? One for each hand, Abai cried, and he lay down in the street, kicking his feet. And when Gaur Mohan agreed to get the second gun, Abai was pacified. Abai's mother, Rajani, was 30 years old when he was born. Like her husband, she came from a long-established Gaudiya Vaishnava family. She was a darker skinned than her husband, whereas his disposition was cool, hers tended to be fiery. Abai saw his mother and father living together peacefully. No deep marital conflict or complicated dissatisfaction ever threatened home. Rajani was chaste and religious-minded, a model housewife in the traditional Vedic sense, dedicated to caring for her husband and children. Abai observed his mother's simple and touching attempts to ensure, by prayers, by vows, and even by rituals, that he continued to live. Whenever he was to go out even to play, his mother, after dressing him, would put a drop of saliva on her finger and touch it to his forehead. Abai never knew the significance of this act, but I didn't know that either. She was his mother, and he stood submissively like a dog with its master while she did it. Does anybody know the significance? Like Gaur Mohan, Rajani treated Abai as a pet child, but whereas her husband expressed his love through leniency and plans for his son's spiritual success, she expressed hers through the attempts to safeguard Abai from all danger, disease, and death. She once offered blood from her breast to one of the demigods with a supplication that Abai be protected on all sides from danger. At Abai's birth, she had made a vow to eat with her left hand until the day her son would notice and ask her why she was eating with the wrong hand. One day, when little Abai actually asked, she immediately stopped. It had been just another prescription for his survival, for she thought that by the strength of her vow, he would continue to grow, at least until he asked about her vow. Had he not asked, he would never again have eaten with her right hand. She would never have again eaten with her right hand, and according to superstition, he would have gone on living protected by her vow. For his protection, she also put an iron bangle around his leg. His playmates asked him what it was, and Abai self-consciously went to his mother and demanded, "Open this bangle." And when she said, "I will do it later," he began to cry, "No, now." When Abai swallowed a watermelon seed and his friends told him that it would grow in his stomach into a watermelon, he ran to his mother, who assured him that he didn't have to worry, that she would say a mantra to protect him.
It's me. Okay. Mother Yasoda would chant mantras in the morning to protect Krishna from all dangers throughout the day. When Krishna, where's the page? Okay. When Krishna, is that right? Some demon, she thought it was due to her chanting. My mother would do a similar thing with me. His mother would often take him to the Ganges and personally bathe him. She also gave him food, a food supplement known as Herlix. When he got dysentery, she cured it with hot porridge and fried eggplant with salt. Although sometimes when he was ill, Abai would show his propensity by refusing to take any medicine. But just as he was stubborn, his mother was determined, and she would forcibly administer medicine into his mouth, although sometimes it took 3 assistants to hold him down. Srila Prabhupada. I was very naughty when I was a boy. I would break anything. When I was angry, I would break the glass hookah pipes, which my father kept to offer to guests. Once, my mother was trying to bathe me, and I refused, and I knocked my head on the ground, and blood came out. They came running and said, "What are you doing? You shall kill the child." Abai was completely dependent on his mother. Sometimes she would put his shirt on backwards, and he would simply accept it without mentioning it. Although he was sometimes stubborn, he felt dependent on the guidance and reassurance of his mother. When he had to go to privy, he would jump up and down beside her, holding her sari and saying, "Urine, mother, urine." I never heard that. "Who is stopping you?" she would ask. "Yes, you can go," and only then, with her permission, he would go. Sometimes, in the intimacy of dependence, his mother became his fowl. When he lost a baby tooth, on her advice, placed it under a pillow that okay, that she was his mother. He stood submissively like a dog with its master while she did it. Does that make sense? No, I made a mistake. Hold on. Okay. Hold on. Sorry, Sid. Sometimes an intimacy of dependence of his mother became his foul when he lost a baby tooth on her advice, placed it under a pillow. That night, the tooth vanished, and some money appeared. Abai gave the money to his mother for safekeeping. But later, when in their constant association, she opposed him, he demanded, "I want my money back. I will go away from home. Now you give me my money back." Abai was unwilling to go to school. Why should I go to school, he thought. I will play all day. When his mother complained to Gaur Mohan, Abai, sure that his father would be affectionate and say, "No, I shall go tomorrow." "All right, he will go tomorrow," said Gaur Mohan. "That's all right." But the next morning, Abai complained that he was sick and his father indulged him. Rajarani became upset because the boy would not go to school, and she hired a man for 4 rupees to escort him there. The man, whose name was Damodar, would tie Abai about the waist with a rope, a customary treatment, take him to school and present him before his teacher. When Abai would try to run away, Damodar would pick him up and carry him in his arms. After being taken a few times by force, Abai began to go on his own. Abai proved attentive, well-behaved student, although sometimes he was naughty. Once the teacher pulled his ear. Abai threw a kerosene lamp to the floor accidentally and started a fire.
Wow. In those days, any common villager, even if illiterate, could recite from Ramayana, Mahabharata, or Bhagavatam. Especially in the villages, everyone would assemble in the evening to hear from these scriptures. It was for this purpose that Abhai's family would sometimes go in the evening to his maternal uncle's house, about 10 miles away, where they would assemble and hear about the Lord's transcendental pastimes. They would return home discussing and remembering them, and then go to bed and dream Ramayana, Mahabharata, and Bhagavatam. After his afternoon rest and bath, Abhay would often go to a neighbor's house and look at the black and white pictures in the Mahabharata. His grandmother asked him daily to read Mahabharata from a vernacular edition. Thus, by looking at pictures and reading with his grandmother, Abhay imbibed Mahabharata. In Abhay's childhood play, his younger sister, Bhava Tarini, was often his assistant. Together, they would go to see the Radha Govinda deities in the Muluk's temple. In their play, whenever they encountered obstacles, they would pray to God to help. "Please, Krishna, help us fly this kite," they would call as they ran along trying to put their kite into flight. Abhai's toys included 2 guns, a wind-up car, a cow that jumped when Abhai squeezed the rubber bulb attached, and a dog with a mechanism that made it dance. The toy dog was from Dr. Bose, the family physician who gave it to him when treating a minor wound on Abhai's side. Abhai sometimes liked to pretend that he was a doctor, and to his friends, he would administer medicine, which was nothing more than dust. Abhai was enamored with the Rath Yatra festivals of Lord Jagannath, held yearly in Kolkata. The biggest Calcutta Rath Yatra was the Muluk's, with 3 separate carts bearing the deities Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra. Beginning from Radha Govinda Temple, the carts would proceed down Harrison Road for a short distance and then return. The Muluk's would distribute large quantities of Lord Jagannath's prasad to the public on this day. Abhay wanted to have his own cart and to perform his own Rath Yatra. And naturally, he turned to his father for help. Gaur Mohan agreed, but there were difficulties. When he took his son to several carpenter shops, he found that he could not afford to have a cart made. On their way home, Abhay began crying, and an old Bengali woman approached and asked him what the matter was. Gaur Mohan explained that the boy wanted a Rath Yatra cart, but they couldn't afford to have one made. "Oh, I have a cart," the woman said, and she invited Gaur Mohan and Abhay to her place and showed them the cart. It looked old, but it was still operable, and it was just the right size, about 3 feet high. Gaur Mohan purchased it and helped to restore and decorate it. Father and son together constructed 16 supporting columns and placed a canopy on the top, resembling as closely as possible the ones on the big cart at Puri. They also attached the traditional wooden horse and driver to the front of the cart. Abhay insisted that it must look authentic. Gaur Mohan bought paints, and Abhay personally painted the cart, copying the Puri originals. His enthusiasm was great, and he became an insistent organizer of various aspects of the festival. And when he tried making fireworks for the occasion from a book that gave illustrated descriptions of the process, Rajani intervened.
Thank you.
Haribol, Hare Krishna.
Haribol, everybody.
Haribol.
Jai Srila Prabhupada. Such an honor to be able to read our Guru's pastimes. Okay. Abhay engaged his playmates in helping him, especially his sister, Baba Tarini, and he became their natural leader. Responding to his entreaties, amused mothers in the neighborhood agreed to cook special preparations so that he could distribute the prasadam at his Rath Yatra festival. Like the festival at Puri, Abhay's Rath Yatra ran for 8 consecutive days. His family members gathered, and the neighborhood children joined in a procession.
How many years now? It's so ironic that she's reading this section. Perfect.
It's amazing.
Yes.
It's mystical. Okay, they were pulling the cart. Oh, thank you, honey. Playing drums and kartals and chanting. Wearing a dhoti and no shirt in the heat of summer, Abhay led the children in chanting Hare Krishna and in singing the appropriate Bengali bhajan, Kikara Raj Kamalini. When Abhay was about 6 years old, he asked his father for a deity of his own to worship. Since infamy, he had watched his father doing puja at home and had been regularly seeing the worship of Radha Govinda and thinking, when will I be able to worship Krishna like this? On Abhay's request, his father purchased a pair of little Radha Krishna deities and gave them to him. From then on, whatever Abhay ate, he would first offer to Radha and Krishna, and imitating his father and the priests of Radha Govinda, he would offer his deities a ghee lamp and put them to rest at night. Abhay and his sister Baba Tarini became dedicated worshippers of the little Radha Krishna deities, spending much of their time dressing, worshipping them, and sometimes singing bhajans. Their brothers and sisters laughed, teasing Abhay and Baba Tarini by saying that because they were more interested in the deity than in their education, they would not live long. But Abhay replied that he didn't care. Okay. And he didn't care. When Abhay was 15, he was afflicted with beriberi, and his mother, who was also stricken, regularly had to rub a powder of calcium chloride on his legs to reduce the swelling. Abhay soon recovered, and his mother, who had never stopped any of her duties, also recovered. But only a year later, at the age of 46, his mother suddenly died. Well, her passing away was an abrupt lowering of the curtain, ending the scenes of his tender childhood, his mother's affectionate care, her prayers and mantras for his protection, her feeding and grooming him, her dutifully scolding him. Her passing affected his sisters even more than him. Though it certainly turned him towards the affectionate care of his father, he was already 16, but now he was forced to grow up and prepare to enter on his own into worldly responsibilities. His father gave him solace. He instructed Abai that there is nothing for which to lament. The soul is eternal, and everything happens by the will of Krishna. So he should have faith and depend upon Krishna. Abai listened and understood. In 1916, Abai began college. There were 2 prestigious colleges in Kolkata, Presidency and Scottish Churches. Abai entered Scottish Churches College. It was a Christian school, but well reputed amongst the Bengalis, and many Vaishnava families sent their sons there. The professors, most of whom were priests in the Church of Scotland, were known as sober, moral men, and the students received a good education. It was a proper and respectable institution, and since it was in North Calcutta and not far from Harrison Road, Gaur Mohan could keep Abai at home. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Gaur Mohan had long ago decided that he would not allow Abai to go to London, and in the name of education become exposed to the corruption of the West. He wanted Abai to be a pure devotee of Srimati Radharani and Lord Krishna. Yet, on the other hand, Gaur Mohan didn't want to give up his son to become a brahmachari disciple of a guru. Where was such a qualified guru to be found? His experience of yogis and swamis had not inspired such confidence. He wanted his son to keep all the principles of spiritual life, yet he also knew that Abai would have to marry and earn a livelihood. Under the circumstances, enrolling Abai in Scottish Churches College was the most protection Gaur Mohan knew to give his son. In my first year, I studied English and Sanskrit. In my second year, Sanskrit and philosophy, then philosophy and economics. Another professor was J.C. Shrimgyur. He was professor of English literature. While teaching English literature, he would give parallel passages from the Bankim Chandra Chatterjee. Yes, yes, he would say, your Bankim Babu says like this. He had studied Bankim's literatures and he compared Bankim Chandra Chatterjee to Walter Scott. In those days, Dickens and Sir Walter Scott were two very great English literary men. So he taught us those novelists, and the relationship was very nice. Abai became a member of the English Society and would recite Keats, Shelley, and other poets to his classmates. As a member of the Sanskrit Society, he recited the Gita, and some of the fellow students especially noted how eloquently he recited the 11th chapter, describing the universal form of Krishna. He also played soccer and took part in theatrics. Amrit Lal Bose, a famous organizer and director of theater in Bengal, rehearsed Abai and a group of his classmates in a drama from the life of Lord Chaitanya. Since Chaitanya Lila was available in the public theater for half a rupee, Mr. Bosch argued, what was the need for an amateur production? And his answer was, they should appreciate your performance of Lord Chaitanya so much that after seeing it, they will agree never to sin. The eminent director was volunteering his service in training these boys, but on one condition, they would not perform publicly unless he said the production was perfect. For more than a year, Abai and the others rehearsed the Chaitanya play until finally their director allowed them to stage a public performance. Abai, playing the part of Advaita Charya, noticed that many people in the audience were crying. At first, he could not understand why, but then he realized that because the players had been well trained and because they were sincere, the audience was moved. That was Abai's first and last dramatic performance. Some of the students, having come to Calcutta from small villages, viewed the big city and the presence of so many Europeans with bewilderment and timidity. But to Abai, Calcutta and the British were not alarming, and he even held a certain fondness for his Scottish teachers. Although he looked up to them with a mixture of awe, distance, and some tension, he admired their moral uprightness and their gentlemanly, courteous behavior with the boys. They seemed to him kind-hearted. College life was demanding. No longer was Abai free to spend hours before the deities of Radha and Govinda early in the morning. That had been a boyhood luxury, and he would daily pass hours in the Mulik's temple before the golden forms of Radha Govinda, watching the pujaris as they worshiped the deities with incense, flowers, lamps, musical kirtan, and opulent prasadam. As a child, he had played within the grassy compound of the temple or watched the men cooking kachoris on the roadside, or bicycled or flown his kite with Baba Tarini. His life had always centered on his home at Harrison Road. His mother's talks, his father's worshiping Krishna, these scenes were now past.
Jai. So before we finish the last 2 pages, I just want to acknowledge Ms. Vyas, who surrendered her reading time. When were you initiated? Where were you initiated?
In New York.
New York, what year?
76.
76. 76, New York, and she's been serving here daily for, how many decades is that?
A long time.
All right, and this is Mahamaya. And tell the audience where and when you were initiated.
I was initiated in New York, July of 71.
How about applause for the 2 ladies here? Hold it underneath your chin. Thanks for your patience.
Now he spent his days within the compound of Scottish Churches College. Here there was also a lawn and a garden with birds and even a small banyan tree. But instead of worship, there was study. The atmosphere at Scottish Churches College was academic, and even the casual conversation among the students as they gathered before the notice boards at the main entrance or passed in groups in and out of the main gates was usually about class assignments or collegiate activities. When Abai was not actually sitting side by side with his fellow students, sharing a classroom bench before one of the long desks that stood row after row in the lecture hall, when he was not looking attentively forward during the lecture of one of the professors, usually a reverend dressed in a European suit, speaking a Scottish brogue and pronouncing words like duty as duty, when he was not actually in the classroom hearing their lectures on Western logic or chemistry or psychology. Then he was at his homework assignments, sitting at a table amidst the bookshelves in the college library, reading from an open book or writing notes while the electric fans overhead rippled the pages. Or he was at home with his father, sisters, and brothers, but reading his lessons or writing a paper for the reverend in the lecture hall. He had had to abandon worshiping the Krishna deity he had demanded his father give him years before. He had retired his deities to a closed box. Gurmohan was undisturbed that his pet son could no longer attend to all the devotional activities of his childhood. He saw that Abai was remaining pure in all his habits, that he was not adopting Western ideas or challenging his own culture, and that as a student at Scottish Churches College, he would not likely be exposed to immoral behavior. Gurmohan was satisfied to see Abai getting a good education to prepare for a career after graduation. He would be a responsible Vaishnav. He would soon marry and get a job. One night after his first year of college, Abai had an unusual dream. The deity of Krishna his father had given him appeared to Abai complaining, "Why have you put me away in this box? You should take me out and worship me again." Abai felt sorry that he had neglected his deity, and he resumed his worship of Radha and Krishna at home despite his assignments.
Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you very much. Let's hear it for the ladies. Great. We have a little extra time. If there are any questions from the audience for these ladies, what they read or anything about their experience with Prabhupada? Any takers? All right, okay. Hold on.
Since we have a little time, we would just love to hear from anybody, any intimate exchanges you had with Srila Prabhupada that were especially memorable for you, or that might be especially instructive for us.
Jai Shri, you have something to say?
No, Malati just handed me the...
Oh.
Anyone have any specific...
Tell Jai Shri while you're here. Then we'll go to Nagama, but I don't want... Oh, Krota Shamani, you came in a little late. Tell all the audience when and where you were initiated.
Oh, I was initiated in Detroit, and Detroit Temple, Jefferson Boulevard, the first temple there, and it was 1972.
Congratulations. So tomorrow we're going to have an in-depth interview with Mother Malati, Anagamanjari, and Kusha Prabhus. We'll go into depth regarding their stories, intimate stories with Prabhupada. And then we're going to have a video played maybe late in the afternoon that includes Jai Shri's story about Prabhupada's compassion. But since you've been asking, Jai Shri has a very interesting story that she could relate regarding her service in Hawaii when she was asked to make a coat for Srila Prabhupada.
Well, everyone's seen in the old pictures, there's Srila Prabhupada in a black coat in London, right? And I was one of the second devotees to happen to come along to Krishna consciousness in Hawaii. So, well, first female. Prabhupada was the first one. I was the next month. A few months later was Chariyadas. Kusha came later, Anyway, it was fun. So Govindadasi, who everyone knows, treated Srila Prabhupada like a child, her child. She came to me because I had brought a sewing machine, and she said, Srila Prabhupada is not supposed to wear black, he's supposed to wear saffron. He's not supposed to have buttons, he's a sannyasi, so could you make him a coat? So this Hawaii, right? She wanted a wool coat. Wool in Hawaii, I mean, I was raised in Hawaii. Kusha and I are both from Hawaii. So wool in Hawaii, I never owned anything with wool. So I thought, how am I going to get saffron wool? Yes, right. So I am kind of known for my shopping Shakti. I guess it's kind of started there with Srila Prabhupada. Probably got it from him, actually. So I went to Ala Moana Center, and I went into Sears. And as soon as I walked in the fabric department, right there on the front table was a whole stack of wool. And right in the front was a saffron bolt of fabric. So I thought, wow, very cool. And actually, I had written to Srila Prabhupada and told him that people were giving me things that I really wanted. And he said, yes, you'll see that when you're chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna is providing for you specifically. So when I saw the wool, I wasn't too surprised. So I got some saffron flannel. I got a pattern for a hooded sweatshirt. And she wanted some kind of heavier hood, because Prabhupada's head would always get cold, she said. So there was no, like, fleece. So I wandered the store, and I went upstairs in the bedding and in like bathroom department, and there was a toilet bowl cover that was a mustard fleece. And I thought, oh, that's big enough. So I got that. So I went home, and Govinda Dasi, to my good fortune, had Prabhupada's coat from when he was a pharmacist with Days liniment. She had a picture of Prabhupada with his mustache, Days liniment. So I would try on Prabhupada's coat and realize that we were about the same size, and in order to make the coat the right size for him. So I made the coat and put a Velcro on it, and she added the peacock feathers. She said, oh, we could put peacock feathers. So I added the peacock feathers to the tassels. And at the same time, when Prabhupada would translate in the morning, he would sit, as we know, at his desk. His desk would be low, and he would sit on a cushion. And she said he would constantly be throwing his chadar over his head and over his legs, and they'd fall off and over. So she said, could you please make him a cape, like a little Red Riding Hood cape? So I got flannel saffron then too, and I made a cape for Srila Prabhupada. I don't know what happened to that, and I've only seen a few pictures of that in the years. But the cape went over his head, and it was really a long cape, so when he sat down, his whole legs would be covered, and she had me put slits so his arms could go through. His shoulders, head, legs would be covered, and just his arms. So I made both of them, and then she sent them off to Srila Prabhupada, who I believe in that time was in London. And he wrote back, and he said, thank you so much for the nice coat and cape. And she said that he wrote, she read it to me, it's so nice and makes me so comfortable, like being on the lap of my mother. So that's the coat story.
Thank you very much.
And Swabhas actually has the coat in his apartment because they were afraid it would get stolen. So yesterday when I was with Malati, we were buying fabric for the Vyasa-san in New Vrindavan, where I've been for the last 42 years. He said he would bring it out and show it to me, so kind of nice.
Haribo. Thank you. Mahamaya? Welcome again. Can you tell us maybe when and how and why you got initiated, how you first met Prabhupada and what your emotion was on that day?
Wow, the first time I saw Srila Prabhupada, I had been doubting so much that the person who wrote Bhagavad Gita as it is could really be on this planet. I don't know how I had this like deep doubt because I had joined the movement in Boston where ISKCON Press was located, and so many senior devotees like Ananga Manjari. She was my Bhakti leader. She was 17 at the time. And I was 24, although they did think I was 13 somehow. I don't know why. Looked young. Anyway, the point is that I just loved Bhagavad Gita. I still, to this day, it's my favorite book. And so I was just wondering, could Srila Prabhupada really appear through that door into the New York temple, the old Brooklyn temple? And my emotion at that moment was, he was an old friend. I just forgot. And so all my doubts were dispelled in that moment. Yeah. But can I add something about getting my name?
Go ahead.
Well, just that for years afterwards, people would say, I heard you cried when you got initiated and got the name Mahamaya. I was like, no, it was the opposite. Everyone laughed because Srila Prabhupada laughed. Prabhupada's servant would tell Prabhupada the name that was written on the sheet of paper. And so I heard the name before everybody else. And then Srila Prabhupada spoke my name in the mic. And there was a shocked silence in the temple. And then Prabhupada started laughing, so then everybody started laughing. It was like that.
Did he tell you what the meaning of the name is?
It was like, seemed like he talked for half an hour, but it was actually 4 sentences. Still, it was everybody else, he was just giving the definition of their names, just a few words, not even a whole sentence. So he said, illusory energy. The illusory energy is a phase of Radharani, just like there are phases of the moon. For one who does not want to serve Krishna, the illusory energy is there. Pretty much, those are the words he said. So I hope I don't live up to the meaning of my name. But the Devi Dasi part is the important part, servant of Krishna.
Right.
Thank you.
Was there any, on a morning walk or any time that you acknowledged or was able to comprehend Prabhupada's quality of compassion? How was Prabhupada compassionate to you?
Wow, just pulling me out of the gutter. I mean, I wasn't looking for Krishna consciousness. Literally a friend took me to the temple and left me there. I didn't even know I thought I was going to a party. He tricked me. Sankirtan party. Yeah. So to me, it's like, I don't know why I'm here, because I was just on the vibrational platform and chanting Hare Krishna made me feel good. But I didn't want to be around the devotees because they were so happy. And I wasn't happy till I started associating with the devotees. Anyway, that's Prabhupada's compassion on, I wasn't seeking. I hear people's stories. They were inquiring. They wanted to understand things like that, like intelligent things. No, for me, I just brought to the temple and left there. And then Ananga Manjari fed me burfi. That did it. Yeah, we're either here because of Prashadam or we stayed because of Prashadam. That's the way I see it.
Very nice.
Thank you for letting me share. Hare Krishna.
Very good.
Can I pass the mic to someone else?
Can you hand the mic to Krota Shamani? Can you share something about how and why you joined Prabhupada's movement and what quality of Prabhupada was...
Well, the first temple I was
hold it closer to your...
Up to here like this? Okay. So in 1972, I was just graduating from college in Ohio, and I first joined in the Cleveland Temple. So there was a beautiful, like a mansion, white mansion, and it was just, the devotees were living there and doing a lot of kirtan and also doing a lot of preaching outside. So one day we got in a van and we went to New Vrindavan, and that's where I first saw Srila Prabhupada. That was the most amazing experience. I just thought, when I saw him, he was walking outside, and it's just remember from clear as bell that he was hardly walking on the ground. It really was, he was levitating there, just flowing through. It was the most intense experience that I ever had. And then I stayed there for a few days, and Srila Prabhupada, because right afterwards, I had my older son right now, Nitai, he's in his 50s. So my relationship with Prabhupada was the Prabhupada cookies with the children, and how much Srila Prabhupada loved the children. And the different temples I've been in, my sons and the other kids that age, they would keep going back to the ISKCON for more cookies, and Prabhupada would just love that. He always wanted to meet with the children in the morning as well. So, my older son remembers those moments, getting cookies and, being with Srila Prabhupada.
So he was
I always
compassionate to
remember
the
that.
children.
Yes, so we should always remember that, forever, how he was very much into making sure the children were happy, learning Krishna consciousness, and in a very loving way. That's how I saw Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you. Excellent. A round of applause. Bhavani, tell us how and why you joined, and any quality of Prabhupada, any story that relates to compassion.
Compassion, okay. Well, the first time that I saw devotees was in Germany in the middle of winter. And I was in Mannheim walking with my mother and my sister, and there was a Harinam party. And all the devotees were wearing, all the girls were wearing gray saris, and all the men were wearing yellow dhotis and kurtas. And there was snow on the ground, and they were just wearing little rubber flip-flops. And no sweaters, but they just seemed so blissful and so happy. And then, so the first time that I saw Srila Prabhupada's, it was a picture. I walked into a little Govinda's in Seattle, and I was trying to buy a chadar, or a shawl, something warm, and I asked, I forgot his name. I asked, what is that? I want one just like that. And it was a picture of Srila Prabhupada wearing that gray chadar that is so famous. Yeah. And so he said, oh, we don't have any chadars left, but I have something even better than that. And then he said, how much can you spend? And I said, well, I have $10. So he went into the back of the store and brought out the big Macmillan Bhagavad Gita. And I said, are you sure $10 is enough for this? And he said, yes. So I took it home, and I felt like, wow, this book is alive. I really felt it was alive. And I put it by my bed, and I felt like it was a person, the book. Okay, so I saw Prabhupada one time only, and that was in Mayapur. And my Sankirtan party went in 1978, October. 1977 in April for Gaur Purnim. And Srila Prabhupada was just leaving Mayapur. So he had already said goodbye to all the devotees that were there. And then we had just come in. So my example of compassion is that he agreed to meet with us just for a few minutes. And he came and spoke to the four of us. And then he went, which was really ecstatic. And I've told the story before. Every time he came to me, I burst out crying. So I didn't get a chance to talk to him. But we followed him to his car. And then he sat down in his little ambassador by the big gates of Mayapur. And he got into the back of his ambassador, and he sat with his legs in full lotus. And he had the cane in front of him, and he was like this, so regal and so amazing looking. And we were looking in the window, and his head was much, much bigger than his body. It was like too big for his body. And I had the feeling that I wasn't seeing an ordinary human. I felt like he was an alien or something, he was definitely from a higher realm. And he drove away, so that was my...
Joy. Now, you mentioned the Gita. Hold on. You told me once before about distributing a Gita to a somewhat famous person in U.S. history.
President Carter?
Yeah. Can you tell that story? Pavani has a Sankirtan story now. Everybody want to hear a Sankirtan story? Okay. All right, go ahead.
Okay, we were in Minneapolis. I was actually distributing books at Chicago Airport. And for Thanksgiving, Shivaram Prabhu took all the devotees to Minneapolis to distribute books there. It was the day before, we were there the day that all the college students came out of school to go home. So it was a huge day of young people just running through the airports. But on that day, Shivaram Prabhu said, President Carter is coming through the airport, and we want to give him a Bhagavad Gita. So he asked me to go and stand where where people are already ticketed. They have a place to sit, and then there's a little wall, and then everybody's walking up and down the... So somebody took me there. I can't remember who it was, and he said, just stand here. President Carter is going to come here, and he's shaking hands along the wall. So I stood there with the Bhagavad Gita, and he shook hands with the person in front of me, and then it was time for him to come to me. So can I have a volunteer to distribute a book? Okay, she already pushed. Okay, let me have that tablet. And you hold the microphone. Oh, okay. Okay. So President Carter you be President Carter, okay? Okay, so he put his hand out, shake my hand. So I actually shook his hand, and then I turned, this is what we used to do, I turned his hand, and as he was letting go, I put this in his...
Wow, good job, good job.
Yeah, and he did just that. He immediately looked at the book because he was in a big hurry, and he goes, go ahead. He goes like this. He goes, and I said, this was Gandhi's favorite book. Those were the words that I said as soon as I put it in his hand. I said, this was Gandhi's favorite book. So he goes like this, said, thank you, and handed it to his assistant. Yeah. So.
Okay, hold on. We got a.
Hold on. There's more.
We got a conclusion here.
So 2 weeks later, Shivaram Prabhu, we were all getting ready to go on Sankirtan, and he said, hey, can I have something to show you up in the office. I don't know if he knew my name or not. I was visiting. He said, I have something to show you up in the office. And he took me up there. There were a bunch of devotees sitting there looking at a newspaper. So I'm not sure now that I think about it, they may have mailed it from India. It might have been Times of India, whatever. And so the headline of the newspaper was, first, there was a picture of President Carter standing outside the door of his airplane at the top of the stairs going down to the tarmac, and he was holding a yellow Bhagavad Gita in his hand. That's the same yellow Bhagavad Gita, and the headline was, do you know why I love India? Because the Bhagavad Gita is from India, or India has I'm not sure the exact words, but it's like that. The Bhagavad Gita is from India, and that, I was just like amazed. Everybody thought, well, it must be the one he got in Minneapolis.
Haribo.
Amazing story.
Some applause for that. Very good. So it made an impression on everyone that read that newspaper for sure. Now, can you hand the mic to Balai? Bilal, just give us a little introduction how you met the devotees. Just a little story.
He said, oh, your name's Roy, right?
Okay. All right. Okay, no problem.
Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Okay, Jai Srila Prabhupada. We'll hear more from Bilal, her memories tomorrow. Right now we're going to play, earlier I had a Zoom call with Rukmini Devi Dasi, who could not make it out here. She lives in Washington, D.C. And if y'all can kind of twist your chairs a little bit towards the monitor, towards the TV. I'm going to read, first of all, her bio. So, Rukmini Devi Dasi first met devotees of Krishna in San Francisco in the summer of 1968, and later that year she received her first initiation from Srila Prabhupada in Montreal. Rukmini then served in Boston and New York temples as an artist, and then as pujari. In 1972, she was sent by Srila Prabhupada to Mayapur, India, with a group of other artists to learn the traditional art of clay doll making. These dolls were made to be used in dioramas to teach the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. In 1974, the group of artists returned to the U.S. to Los Angeles to create the first American theistic exhibition, or FATE, with a multimedia museum showcasing the Bhagavad Gita, which is now housed in the Rukmini Dwarkadish Temple. Everybody know where that is? All right, see if you're awake. Currently, Rukmini resides in Washington, D.C. area, where she and her husband, Anuttama Das, operate their 3 award-winning designer craft galleries called as Kindred Spirits. Their business has supported child protection, the Children of Krishna Foundation, ISKCON Communications, and other social initiatives for 25 years. Rukmini is also the founder of the Urban Devi Collective, which seeks to uplift the voices of women on the path of bhakti in the 21st century. Now, for this one, we'll be full screen, right, Tapas, Prabhu? Before we start the video, can I get a local temple devotee to turn off the lights in the temple room? Does anybody know where those are? Huh? I know, but I want to create a theater atmosphere here. Make it full screen. Hold on. Don't play it yet. Okay, try now. Yeah, play.
Devi Dasi, thank you very much for joining us on this auspicious day in LA. We're celebrating Prabhupada Festival centered around Prabhupada's daughters, with a focus on how Prabhupada exhibited compassion to them. And Rukmini joined, I think, at 16 years old, and a very young age where it was an unusual situation for someone to join that young. So maybe you can take me back there. What was your family like? Were you raised in a particular religious family? And how did you come to meet Prabhupada? And what changed your faith, essentially, if you did have a faith growing up?
Well, I'm from a Jewish family, but they were sort of a secular, non-practicing Jewish family. I think a lot of Jewish people, after the Holocaust, they just couldn't understand how a merciful God could allow that to happen. So dhoti light around Prabhupada. When I saw him, he was just like, you know, magnificent light all around him in that room.
When you were introduced to him, he found out that you were only 16 years old?
Yeah, so here's what happened. So Yamuna Devi said, we called him Swamiji at that time. So she said, Swamiji, this is Wendy, and she's only 16 years old, and she would like to become your disciple. So Prabhupada, so our topic today is Srila Prabhupada's compassion. And Srila Prabhupada was so interesting because Srila Prabhupada, I could see he said, but where are her parents? You know, so his compassion, he was really feeling the pain of my parents. Here's this 16-year-old girl out on the loose, you know, away from her, you know, what's going on here? So he, you know, I felt that he was feeling the pain of my parents. And so, yeah. So then, that was the beginning of meeting Srila Prabhupada. I feel like Prabhupada's compassion is really rooted in the broad compassion of Lord Chaitanya. And his predecessor acharyas, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhakti Siddhanta, they were revolutionary visionaries. And I feel like Srila Prabhupada was so rooted in that mood. And if I can, could I read just one little paragraph from a letter he wrote to Himavati?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. I just think this is so indicative of his compassion. So he wrote, this is a letter from December 1969. Prabhupada wrote to her, my god sister, he said, personally, I am so much gladdened that the pairs of young boys and girls who I have placed in householder life are doing so nicely in the Western world. When Lord Chaitanya delivered Jagai and Madhai, he was also a householder. But when Jagai and Madhai were actually reclaimed, his wife Vishnupriya was not there. But in this case, and in many other cases also, I find that my disciples combined together, husband and wife, are doing this preaching work so nicely. So I am especially proud how my householder disciples are preaching Lord Chaitanya's mission. Let's see. This is a new thing in the history of the Sankirtan movement. Isn't that interesting that he says that? Then he says, in India, all the acharyas and their descendants later on acted only from the man's side. Their wives were at home because that is the system from old times, that women are not required to go out. But in Bhagavad Gita, we find that women are also equally competent, like the men, in the matter of Krishna consciousness movement. Please therefore carry on these missionary activities and prove it by practical example that there is no bar for anyone in the matter of preaching work for Krishna consciousness.
Nice.
Isn't that beautiful?
I've never heard that before.
It's beautiful. I just really wanted to share that.
But that reminds me of how you once mentioned where you were with Prabhupada in a room, and Prabhupada was asking all the devotees to open temples.
Right.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, that's a beautiful story. So it took place at 26 2nd Avenue. So Srila Prabhupada had a small apartment up one flight of stairs behind the courtyard. There was a little courtyard behind the storefront, and Prabhupada had an apartment back there. And we would meet there a couple of evenings a week when I was in New York. Devotees, small group of disciples would go up to Prabhupada's room. And so on this one evening, he was looking into, there were not very many people there, I would say maybe 10 or 15 at the most. And he was looking at each one of us in the eye, very studied, very strategically, very personally and intently, looking at each one of us, saying, I want each one of you to open a temple somewhere. And I was so young, and I'm still a bit impetuous, but I was worse then. So I just said, even the girls wanted to. And my comment made him just start laughing. He was laughing, and he was saying, yes, there is no difference between the boys and girls. when you are preaching Krishna consciousness, there is no difference. And I think this is a very important instruction that, maybe our ISKCON society has come away from that understanding in the recent years. But this was his vision from the beginning. And then he started to talk about Janavi, the wife of Lord Nityananda, and how she was leading the whole Sankirtan movement during her day. And so that was a great beacon of inspiration for me. So I was in New York for some time, and they had acquired a new temple. The second New York temple was at 61 2nd Avenue. It's still a storefront, but it was a much nicer storefront. It kind of much more spiffy, and it had been a tuxedo shop. So there were mirrors all around the perimeter, and it was a nicer storefront, one flight of stairs up. And the devotees, the leaders of the temple, were writing to Prabhupada that, oh, Prabhupada, you're going to love the new temple. It's a palace. It's just like a palace, and you're just going to love it. And I was thinking, oh my goodness, what's going to happen when he comes? Is he going to be angry? Is he going to be disappointed? It's a storefront. It's another storefront. Why are they calling it a palace? I was very apprehensive of what's going to happen when he actually comes. So, so he comes, and he comes up the stairs, and he's looking all around, looking at the new space. And then he sat down on his Vyasa-san, and he said, I prayed to Krishna to send me one moon. But Krishna, he said, I did not want so many stars, only one moon. But Krishna has sent me so many moon-like boys and girls. Such compassion, such appreciation for our little broken ragtag endeavors. And
I'm sure it inspired you though as well.
Yeah, it was very, very beautiful to see that's the walk, right? I think we have to awaken compassion, we have to awaken appreciation, gratitude. I think we talk a lot about yajna. The Bhagavad Gita uses the word yajna, sacrifice. But what is yajna? It's gratitude, it's appreciation for everything that's come from our source. So I don't know, you're probably well aware of a letter Prabhupada wrote to the devotees in Los Angeles that you are all sent by my Guru Maharaj. Such appreciation, such gratitude that he was saying otherwise, by myself, I came here alone, empty-handed, without any help, without any support. So you've all been sent by my Guru Maharaj to help me. So his appreciation was so palpable. And I think we really need to imbibe that. We really need to reflect that and pay it forward, shine it forward, because that's what will touch people's hearts. And at my initiation, he told the story of Rukmini for the first time. The devotees hadn't heard that story yet. So he was very, very gracious, and he said, so Krishna can accept he told the story of the kidnapping of Rukmini, right? And then he said, so Krishna can accept any number of beautiful girls. He said, you are a beautiful girl, and Krishna can accept any number of beautiful girls. So one day Krishna will kidnap you. So that was Prabhupada's compassion, his charm. And then he said something, then he gave a real lifelong instruction that I think is an instruction for me, but I think for all of us. He said, you're a beautiful girl, now become, and this is how, to me, I think of it as him, opening the heart with those kind words and then injecting the medicine. So he said, you're a beautiful girl, now become more beautiful within also. So that's the task, right? For all of us to open our hearts and become more beautiful. When someone was having trouble, Prabhupada would take them to be his own personal servant. As a matter of fact, he told Allen Ginsberg, Allen Ginsberg was saying he could never follow these principles, and Prabhupada said, well, you come live with me.
That's pretty compassionate.
Just come live with me. I had been sent to Los Angeles to learn deity worship from my dear God sister Srila, who just recently left this world. So I was there for almost a year. And then I came back to Boston, and the temple where I was serving as pujari. I came back and I was trying to, maybe not so humbly, but I was trying to institute some of the things I learned in Los Angeles, and I was meeting with a lot of obstacles. You know, devotees were saying to me, well, that's how we do it that's how they do it in Los Angeles, this is how we do it here, and kind of a lot of inertia, and I wasn't getting much traction trying to introduce some of these standards that I'd just been taught. So then I had this dream that the deities were on the altar and the curtains opened and the deities were gone. So that really spooked me as a pujari. So I wrote to Prabhupada and I said, because he had been saying that deity worship is without bhava, is only idol worship. So I wrote to him, I took it on myself. I said, Prabhupada, my own negligence, I haven't done a good job, and now because of my negligence, the deities have disappeared, and I don't have any bhava, and how am I supposed to get any bhava? Otherwise, this is idol worship. That was basically the gist of the letter. And so then Prabhupada wrote me this letter back, which, if you read it in the letters book and you don't really know the context, it's a little unusual. But Prabhupada wrote this letter back, and he just listed all these items of cleanliness. You know, shower regularly, cut your nails, do this, do that, all these different items of cleanliness. And then he said, and then the bhava will come. So it was really interesting, sweet exchange, Prabhupada's compassion. So training us in the different standards of Krishna consciousness was also his compassion. There's a story that in Boston, Prabhupada came to Boston. I was attempting to be a painter, and Bhardraj, my husband, was much better painter than I was. So Prabhupada came there and he looked at my painting, he looked at Bhardraj's painting, and he just said, the husband is better. And it was true. And then, it's such a funny story. So this is Prabhupada's just being so present with his compassionate, being able to cut to the chase, right? That's what I would call it. So then about 2 years later in Mayapur, he came and he sent us there to learn this doll making, this putal, clay doll making. And we had made our first attempts at these dioramas, and Bhardraj made a diorama of Lord Chaitanya fainted in front of Lord Jagannath. I had made a diorama of Radha and Krishna dancing. Prabhupada looked at the two dioramas, and again he just cuts to the chase, and it's like picking up like he hadn't missed a beat from 2 years before. He said, he just looked at them, he said, the wife is better. So that was very funny. So we were in Delhi at one time, and the temple was in a house in this diplomatic enclave called Chanakyapuri, although all the diplomats were in that area. So Prabhupada starts speaking from Lord Chaitanya's Shastra, quoting from the 4th, 5th, 6th verse. So he starts saying, Nayanam Galadash, Nayanam Galada, as though he couldn't remember the verse. And no one was completing the verse. All of the, sannyasis, everyone sitting up at the front, no one was saying anything. But I knew the verse, and I was sitting in the back corner in the back of the room, so really quietly I said, Nayanam Galadashu Dalaya, Vadanam Gadgani. And so Prabhupada points to this little girl at the back and said, yes, what is that verse? And so then I said the whole verse. And then Prabhupada was looking at these leaders around his desk saying, you see, this little girl, she knows the verse, you don't know. And so he was cutting them down by his compassion. And then he tried it again with another verse from the ISKCON, Yuga, Yitam, Yuga. And nobody's saying anything. So then, me at the back of the room, I go, Yuga, Yitam, Nimishena, Chaksusa. Yes! What is that verse? He has me chant the whole verse. So then, I fell into the trap. And I started to get a little proud. Oh, I know the verse, they didn't know. And so then Prabhupada, his compassion, once again, he had to serve me with his compassion by cutting down my false pride. So then he started talking about the Ugra Karma civilization, and he said, just like they have these gigantic crucibles. And I was sitting at the back and I said, just really quietly, and went, And he turns to me and he goes, so, you know what is a crucible? And I actually didn't know what a crucible was at that time. And I said, and I was thinking he was meaning like a cubicle where monks meditate. And I said, well, isn't it one of those little rooms where monks meditate? And Prabhupada did that toss of the head. Does anyone know what is crucible? And so then Brahmananda was sitting at the front. He goes, yes, Srila Prabhupada, a crucible is a gigantic molten form in which they melt steel girders for building skyscraper buildings. So Srila Prabhupada looks right at me and he goes, yes, that is crucible. So his kind compassion cutting down our pride. This story is an example of Krishna's compassion allowing us to see something that Prabhupada himself was not exhibiting to us. So I was the pujari at that time. It was a Sunday evening. Prabhupada was coming in to give his lecture after the Aarti. So as he would do, he came up to the front to offer his obeisances to the deities. And I was hiding behind the left-hand curtain, so I wasn't being seen, but I was sort of from another angle from the rest of the people in the temple, crowded temple room. And so the deities were wearing, Krishna was wearing the typical Vrindavan yellow dhoti, and Radharani was wearing kind of a simple sari sort of a dress. And Prabhupada, when he came lovingly glancing at the deities, and then as he started to bow down, tears just shot out of his eyes across the temple room, like you see in the pictures of Lord Chaitanya, the tears coming out like a syringe. You know, so the people on the other side of the temple room were being splashed by Prabhupada's tears, and they're looking around. They thought maybe the pujari had thrown the water from the Aarti. And then Prabhupada just very humbly bowed down. And then I jumped off the altar as Prabhupada was walking. His Vyasa-san was at the back of the other side of the temple room. And I jumped off the altar and I was telling my friend, those are Prabhupada's tears. And we were wiping his tears from the floor, putting them on our heads. And so yeah, when I think of compassion, I think of, you know, Prabhupada was so unassuming. He was never exhibiting any ecstatic symptoms, but sometimes he would be overwhelmed. So I think of that as Krishna's compassion on us, that we had a chance to see on the other side of the mystery for a moment.
This is fantastic. You got the blessings, you know, from Prabhupada's compassion from day one, 16 years old, and I'm not going to tell your age now, but you made a lifetime of devotional service that I'm sure, you know, is an inspiration to all the other Prabhupada's daughters. We thank you for joining us at the LA Prabhupada Festival.
Thank you so much.
2024, so thank you for sharing.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Rukmini Devi Dasi Ki Jai. Back here. So I just wanted to... lights back on. Thank you. Just one sec. We're going to put the lights back on in the temple room. Aarti starts in 10 minutes. But I want to thank you, Archita. I want to share one story that Madhavananda Prabhu told at a Prabhupada festival or Prabhupada reunion. This was maybe 9, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, but a very significant story, very apropos every day, but certainly during this Prabhupada festival. He says in Calcutta in 1972, Srila Prabhupada was on a morning walk with a lot of brahmacharis. Some of the brahmacharis, am I on your way here? Some of the brahmacharis said, some of the brahmacharis were complaining because women also lived at the Calcutta temple at 3 Albert Road. The brahmachari said, Srila Prabhupada, sometimes the women don't put their saris over their heads, and why can't the women get a place outside separate from the brahmacharis? Their presence is not conducive to our brahmachari life. Something like that. Prabhupada was silent for the entire walk. Sometimes he stopped walking and then started again, but he didn't respond to the brahmacharis. We came up the stairs of 3 Albert Road. Someone opened the door, and there was Jamuna and Palika and Shamasundar's wife, Malati. 3. Yeah. Oh, Jamuna was not there? Oh, okay. Always editing these books. It's incredible. Okay, so there was Vishalini, Malati, Palika, oh, Koshaya. She sends her regards. She couldn't make it this weekend, but she passes on her regards to everyone here. So the 3 of them, yeah, he mentioned Malati, Koshaya, and Madri. Was Madri there? I'll tell it, and then you can add on to it. I'll tell you what he said. Okay, you can correct him. So all these women who had stayed behind to wash the floor, cook for the deities, bathe the deities, dress the deities, prepare Srila Prabhupada's Vyasasan and the cushions for the guests. The women immediately offered their obeisances and said, Jai Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada turned to all of us men and said, but if you associate with these women, you'll go back to Godhead. Is that close? Close enough?
But in all fairness, the Calcutta temple was really a difficult situation to live in at that time. There was not like separate quarters per se. There was a bathroom that had a door on each side and a great big Victorian bathtub and one toilet, British style, and then a big, huge aluminum container where you're supposed to fill the water up at the time of day the water was on. And being Westerners, we just weren't used to that, so we'd often forget to fill up the water tank, which meant you had no water for the whole day to do anything you might need to do in that bathroom. And to get to the women's quarters, which were on the roof, you had to walk through the bathroom. So the 2 doors, they had to be locked if you're going to be doing anything in there, and sometimes people would forget to lock or unlock, which meant there would be either you'd get locked out and you couldn't get through, or somebody would walk in on you. It wasn't easy. So the fact that the men were like thinking, okay, well, maybe the women should move out. It wasn't as drastic as it sounds. It was a slightly desperate situation. But we saw, meaning the ladies, we saw these women taking a bath in the Kund across the street. It's still there at the temple. And we thought we could help alleviate the situation. We would also go down and take our morning bath in the Kund, and we started doing that. And then this life member man comes to Prabhupada and he goes, your women are bathing in the pond with the prostitutes, because we saw these other ladies bathing. That's how we got the idea. We had no idea what their profession was. Well, because that looked not so good, so yeah, we stopped.
How about a round of applause for that story? Hari Bol. Had not heard that one. Thank you for sharing that one. Ma Shakti, do we have a leader for the Aarti? Is Naikama going to lead Aarti? Do we have anyone assigned for that seva? Any of the ladies want to lead Aarti?
Sing like a frog. Is it? Okay.
So we have a few minutes here. Are there any other questions or any comments from the audience about their own experience with Prabhupada or compassion reading his books? Any insights from the gallery? Okay, Amoga Leela is here.
We heard a story about Srila Prabhupada's book going into President Carter's hand. I have a story about Krishna book going into Governor Carter's hand on the very same day that he was leaving Atlanta, going to Washington, D.C. to start his presidential campaign. I was in the airport, we were using, Tripurari Maharaj was there. He said, we can try dhotis also. So I was wearing a dhoti in the Atlanta airport, and I said, it's Governor Carter. So I just walked up. This was the fastest book distribution I've ever done. I said, Governor Carter. And he was walking pretty fast, so I had to do it. So I just put the book in his hand, and I said, could you give a donation? So he just took the book, he handed it to an aide who was walking behind him, and I walked along with the aide, and he pulled out a $10 bill. So half a minute, and Governor Carter took Krishna with him to Washington to begin his presidential campaign, and he was unknown outside of Georgia at that time. Nobody could imagine he would become the president. We know why now. Well, the other Carter storyteller was asking me to tell another story. We were together in Atlanta. I told my story first, and she told hers there. And she's asking me to tell another story. Which one? Because we told a lot of Sankirtan. It was a Sankirtan festival. Which one shall I tell? Okay, another real quick one. Bhakta Kevin here and I are going distributing Persian and Arabic books. So, do you want to come up here and help me tell the story? So this gentleman is an incredible hero of mine. He goes on his phone and he looks up where are all the Persian and Arabic restaurants, halal stores, wherever there will be Persian and Arabic speakers. So one restaurant we went to, it was inside of a mall where of course distributing was illegal, soliciting, but we found the restaurant. We saw the manager. He walked by us. We didn't know he was the manager. And then Kamal, do you want to say what you said to that employee?
I said, can I speak to the manager?
What did he say?
He said, why are you guys here? But then the manager walked back. You want me to finish it?
Oh, I'll finish it. I'll make it even more exciting than you could. So, this was a kshatriya. He was tall, commanding, and he was totally in control of the whole situation. You could tell just by the way he walked. So, and he was also moving fast. You know. So Bhakta Kevin says to him, you tell him what you said to him.
It was really fast. I think I just said it was ancient spiritual knowledge. I handed him the books, and he was really, keen. He was very attentive. And with enthusiasm, I just asked for a donation, and he...
I'll tell the story. With enthusiasm, he said, could you please give and before he could finish the word donation, the man's hand went into his pocket and pulled out his wallet. And he handed a $20 bill. So that was maybe a little bit longer than my giving President or Governor Carter a Krishna book, but about equal time. And he got $20, I only got 10.
So this part I will share. So since he gave $20, I gave him 3 more sets. And I said, you're a leader for your Persian community. I know you have many friends. Please give this to your friends. And he nodded. So it was like under a minute long, and we did 13 Farsi books.
Very nice. Thank you for sharing.
I just want to say everyone probably knows Narendra Prabhu, gives classes here sometimes on Sundays. And Narendra and I were young brahmacharis in our 20s, and we lived with the Mogalila on a traveling Sankirtan van for 6 months. And a lot of devotees, Mogalila is very staunch, very sincere, and but we were these kind of, agitated brahmacharis, and we were like, we're going to rebel against the Mogalila, we're going to have a, and Narendra said, whatever Mogalila says, I will do. And so we said, okay, we'll surrender. But anyway, Mogalila was very inspiring those days, giving nice classes in the van. Hare Krishna.
Do you have time to tell us about the day when I dropped you off?
No. Anyway, so.
Thank you. Jai. Okay. Do we, Mataji? Does she have you in the lead?
No? Or we can stand up.
Yes, everyone can stand up for the Aarti, please. And move forward to the altar.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Sahaniti Naminaya Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavari Pastacharya Satarine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavari Pastacharya Satarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhatta Vrinda Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhatta Vrinda Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasari, Gaura Bhatta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Nitai, Gaurasunda Nitai, Gaurasunda Nitai, Gaurasunda Nitai, Gaurasunda Nitai. Jaya Jagannath Swami, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Baladev, Jaya Subhadra. Oh, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Baladev, Jaya Subhadra. Jaya Rukmini Dakarish, Rukmini Dakarish, Rukmini Dakarish, Rukmini Dakarish. Jaya Rukmini Dakarish, Rukmini Dakarish, Rukmini Dakarish, Rukmini Dakarish. Jaya Radha, Shama Sundar Radha, Shama Sundar Radha, Shama Sundar Radha. Jaya Radha Govinda, Radha Govinda, Radha Govinda, Jaya Radha Govinda. Jaya Radha Gokulananda, Radha Gokulananda, Radha Gokulananda, Radha. Jaya Radha Jaya Radharaman, 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 Jaya Radharaman. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Namaste Narasingaya. Namaste Narasingaya. Pralada Lada Daine. Lada Lada Daine. Pralada Lada Daine. Hiranyakashipu Vashaha. Hiranyakashipu Vashaha. Sila Tankana Kalae, Sila Tankana Kalae, Sila Tankana Kalae, Sila. Itone Singa, Paratone Singa, Itone Singa, Paratone Singa, Itone Singa. Yata Yata Yamita Tone Singa, Yata Yata Yamita Tone. Yata Yata Yamita Tone Singa, Yata Yata. Bahine Singa, Hridayene Singa, Bahine Singa, Hridayene Singa, Bahine Nara Singham Madin Sharanam Prabhade Singham Nara Singham Madin Sharanam Prabhade. Tavakara Kamala Varenakam Adbhuta Singham Dalita Hiranyakashipu Sandobringam Kesavatrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisa Hare Jai Jagadisa Hare Jaya Jagadisa Hare Lalita Hiranyakashipu Sandobringam Kesavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisa Hare Jai Jagadisa Hare Jaya Jagadisa Hare Kesavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisa Hare Jaya Nisingade, 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 Jaya Nisingade. Jaya Prala Maharaj, Prala Maharaj, Prala Maharaj, Jaya Prala Maharaj. Haribo, 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 this tiger, Haribo. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya.
Hare Krishna, Hare Bo. So far we've had a beautiful festival so far. Did everyone appreciate the speakers this morning? Did everyone? So we've had some wonderful donations coming in from our festival to make this possible, and I'd like to give some special recognition to actually our largest donor for the festival, Tanush Patel. And we'd like to offer him a gift. Let's give him a round of applause, please. Tanush Prabhu, we would like to offer this to you. This is a beautiful murti of Srila Prabhupada for you, for your home, in which you can worship Srila Prabhupada. Definitely. And go back to home, back to God. So let's hear it for Tanush Prabhu. Thank you so much. Thank you kindly for the donation, Prabhu. Thank you. So, Prashadam is going to be served at 1 o'clock across the street below. You can also take Prashad in the restaurant if you'd like. Okay, your choice. At 2:30 sharp, we're having the bus leave here, where it's going to be maybe 2:30, 2:40. We want to be as prompt as possible. So if you're coming on the Harinam bus, it'll be parked over here. You should wear a hat. You should have some sunblock on. We're going to be gone for 4 hours. It'll be a lot of ecstatic chanting. I hope you'll come. Most of you who are registered, you've already got your seats registered. Some of you, we still have some extra seats. So if you're interested in coming, let me know and we'll put you on our list, okay? So 2:30 promptly, back at the temple at 6:30, evening Aarti, and then we're going to also have Prashadam later on as well. No one's going to go hungry. Everyone will be eating. And then we're going to have bhajans later, as well as milk and cookies and reading Krishna book. Hari Bo! Thank you very much.
Check. So just as an added note before you leave, if you're not able to make it on the Harinam bus and you want to hang out here at the Temple Room, there will be a documentary by Bhargava Prabhu being played in here. 4 Matajis giving their ecstatic stories about Prabhupada's compassion. Mula Prakriti, Manchwali, Jai Shri, did I say Jai Shri? Jai Shri, and Sahadevi. Have amazing stories, very unique stories. So if you're not going, be here in the Temple Room to watch that, as well as videos from Yadabara's series following Srila Prabhupada. Now, as an added treat for this weekend, the gift shop has been donated 20 of these books called A Bond of Love. This is Srila Prabhupada and his daughters. Over 300 female disciples were interviewed for this book. Upstairs in the gift shop, only $20. And if you purchase one of these books, you get free of charge one of Siddhanta's memory books, volume 5, the latest volume. Free. There's only 20 available. So before tomorrow's huge crowd comes, you might want to take advantage of that. Advantage of being here on Saturday. All right, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.